Hare Krishna. My name is Todd Desmond, and this is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the Hare Krishna movement. And this video is about Plato, who I argue in a book I've written that Plato is a devotee of Krishna. Emerson was also of this opinion, and the thesis that I did for a degree in liberal studies at Georgetown University is a response to former Vice President Al Gore's book, Earth and the Balance, Ecology and the Human Spirit, wherein he argues that Plato's theory of the disembodied soul is the root source of the spiritual crisis behind the ecological crisis we are facing today. So the title of my thesis is In Defense of Plato, a response to Al Gore's book, Earth and the Balance, Ecology and the Human Spirit, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this video right now. I begin by pointing out that Al Gore never mentioned Socrates or Plato's use of the dialogue form for a literary form, which is a big oversight when you're going to charge Plato with something as enormous as creating a spiritual crisis that is threatening all the living species of the planet. So I focus in my thesis on Plato's Republic, his central-most dialogue, his most famous dialogue. And the novel thing that I introduced to Plato's scholarship in this thesis is that Plato's Republic is secretly patterned on a tragic play by the Greek tragic playwright Euripides. The play that I say the Republic is patterned on is the Bacchae, which is about the god Dionysus, the flute-playing god who returns from Asia with his chorus of Asian Bacchae, the name of his ecstatic horde of devotees, the women, the Bacchae, the Asian Bacchae they're called. And he returns from Asia to Greece, to his hometown, where the people of the town were denying the divinity of the god, Dionysus. Born in the town of Thebes, as a youth, escaped to India for circumstances which I will discuss in another film segment, returns from Asia to Greece. So the point of this, no one else will tell you that the Republic is paralleled on the Bacchae. That's a new release to the world of Plato scholarship, and it's kind of difficult in a 5-minute segment to explain the full impact of what I purport this literary parallel implies. But in the short term, it has a bearing on what Al Gore says about Plato and his theory of the disembodied soul. So coming back to Al Gore, he says Plato's theory that the soul is separate from the body causes us to despise the material body and the earth in general. And I suppose he has a rational point. If you think you're separate from the earth, you might be less inclined to be concerned for it. On the other hand, Plato's theory of the soul also entails the unity of all being in what he calls the form of the good, the idea of the good, also known as the spiritual sun. He says that by observing the spiritual sun with the eye of the soul, we become just. Al Gore's antidote to Plato's theory of the soul is to perceive God in every aspect of the universe like bright shining as the sun, he says, with the mind's eye, which is exactly Plato's ultimate suggestion in the Republic through Socrates. So in my thesis, I argue that though Al Gore blames Plato's theory of the soul for our spiritual crisis, which has led to the ecological crisis, his antidote is actually the epitome of Plato's theory of the soul, which is perceiving the spiritual sun with the eye of the soul. The parallel with the Bacchae, which is a trick that Plato uses furthermore indicates that that spiritual son is a personal god. The flute-playing god, the dancing god, Dionysus, whom in another book, I argue, is based culturally on the god Krishna, which his divine grace brought this cult of Krishna consciousness from India to America and then around the world. So that, in a nutshell, is the summary of my thesis in response to Al Gore in defense of Plato, and I will elaborate on this theory in other video sessions in dialogue with other people. Hare Krishna.